Hello, can you guys hear me? Fantastic. All right. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm chatting today for about 25 minutes about something that's really important to me, but something that we all should be concerned about. It's about how we as a continent get our act together to be able into the next 5 to 10 years capture an opportunity that is not going to repeat itself for the next 100 years. Speaking about the API humanity, it's all about a model around thinking around value creation, but also for businesses like ourselves, how you be able to create this term I call new value. Now, the reason why I believe this is so important to us is that we're facing a bit of a crisis as an African continent. Some of you that know that Africa constitutes about 17% of the world's global population, but we only contribute 3% to the world's global GDP. Now, that in itself is an indictment because we are the future of the continent and the future of the world. So, if we think about the things that we need to be doing to be able to capture this value, we have to think about technology in three different phases. And technology has been disrupting us from the age of zero. Now, the first phase of technology disruption was called passive technology. Those of you that are Netflix fans and that watch programs like Spartacus will know how it was that Romans used to capture people's images back in the day. So, as a slave, you used to be able to fight, and when you fought and you became a gladiator and you won, what they used to do is they used to etch you into history. So, they used to pick up a chisel and pick up a hammer, and they used to force your image into a stone. Now, you've seen those pictures of those Romans with that stone statue, and that was very, very, very advanced technology back in the day. In my mind, that's very passive technology because the will of the human has to create the outcome. If you go a little bit forward in a few years' time, there's what we call generative technology. The best way to explain this is when the first time you were able to create a picture, a Word document, a Paint document with a mouse, because you could slide your finger over a mouse pad and you could, with the computer, create something. That was generative technology. And the age that we're in now is this age of intuitive technology, which is amazing because it creates a whole world of opportunities. And intuitive technology effectively is about the ability to solve problems and create solutions before consumers even know they have them. The reason intuition has become a thing is two lines have intersected. The first is that we've got lots of data, lots of information is available. The second thing that's happened is that we've also got lots of computing capability. At this day and age, quantum computing is going to be driving the future of understanding how we create more intuitive products. So if you put all those things together, it really creates a real exciting place to play for entrepreneurs and value creators. A few of the businesses I'm involved in use three things to solve for the future: creativity, technology, and empathy. And in my engineering business, for example, one of the things that drives the products that we build is a thing we call the Kalenga conundrum, which I'll take you through very briefly. It's about understanding the intersection of two simple lines. The first line is the Human Development Index. Those of you that understand anything about numbers, the clever people from the World Health Organization take data from all over the world, they put it together, and they come up with a number that tells you how well humans are doing in different parts of the world. So between 0 and 0.5, they can tell you the wellness quotient of different people across the globe. And what you'll notice from this line, unfortunately, is that the bottom line is Sub-Saharan Africa, the black line at the bottom, which means since 1990 to now, we've technically had the worst human development condition in our continent. The second thing you'll notice is the lines are sloping up and to the right, okay? Now, for all of you that are mathematically inclined, that means things are getting better. Only incrementally so, but they're getting better, right? So you look at the Human Development Index and you say things aren't great for Sub-Sahara, but on average things are getting better. Then when you look at another graph, it's quite interesting to see the opposite. This graph is called the J-curve, and those of you that are in technology will understand this curve means the acceleration of technology. It's how things get better and better and better. It's how we're able to go from down at the bottom, the printing press, to where we are today, 3D printing, and creating amazing solutions that can solve human problems. And the only reason this curve can accelerate the way it accelerates is because technology capability has doubled and doubled and doubled since the first microchip was created. So if you put these two lines together, it creates a very important provocation for value creators in the 21st century. When you put the line that is actually the Human Development Index overlaid by the Technology Index, you see that there's a point where technology surpasses the Human Development Index. And that's a problem. Because we have to ask ourselves, how is it that we can send people to the moon, but we can't feed people on Earth? And the provocation for our generation is going to be, how do we, as technology improves, fundamentally improve the lives of people on our planet? Now, there's some companies that are doing this very well. Unfortunately, the startups of this day and age are thinking about this. It's top of mind, and it's not a bolt-on, it's not a CSI initiative, it's core to their business. And one of those companies that I spend a lot of time following is called Zipline. And this is how they're approaching the problem of the Kalenga conundrum.
Rwanda is known as the land of a thousand hills. It is a very difficult country in terms of topography, and many areas are hard to reach.
Traversing that terrain to get to a rural village can take hours, even though it's a very short distance.
Today, if a mother is giving birth and suffers from postpartum hemorrhaging, her life is dependent on getting a blood transfusion.
There are many different types of blood types. They have a limited shelf life. And the challenge is when you need blood, you need it immediately. But it is unpredictable which geography that will occur in.
Hospitals that are in more remote areas can have a very hard time getting enough reliably supplied blood.
The time to order and get the supplies by truck is just too late.
There's no way that we can overcome the time that it takes to get anywhere during the rainy season. And people would say, okay, during the rainy season, we're just not going to make it.
The best case scenario, it would take at least 4 hours. But with Zipline, we are looking at cutting that 4 hours to something like 15 minutes.
It is a team of Rwandese who came together with Zipline to groom the project and to make it happen in Rwanda.
Their ultimate vision is to put each and every one of those 11 million citizens within a 15 to 35-minute delivery of any essential medical product that they could need. And that's a revolutionary idea for any country in the world.
The use of drones to deliver life-saving medical products can overcome the lack of road infrastructure. We need to let our imagination soar.
When you have a commodity, rare in supply, that might be an unusual blood type or something like a rabies vaccine, and you need it immediately, the idea that we could use a drone to be able to deliver this to the country is absolutely brilliant. There's nothing else that could do that in that way.
It is like we will no longer go around the hills, but we fly over the hills.
We've pulled together a team from places like Boeing, SpaceX, Google, Lockheed Martin.
And it's an honor for Zipline to partner with the government of Rwanda.
We place a hub next to an existing medical warehouse, and it instantly enables that warehouse to make hundreds of deliveries per day to any location within range.
The doctor sends us their order by text, by phone call, whatever's convenient.
Somebody identifies the need and then prepares the package, puts it on the drone.
Then we take that vehicle and we put it through pre-flight tests. It's launched, it flies automatically out to the clinic.
The path has been already calculated, it's in the computer.
And then they'll receive a text message saying, Zip is 2 minutes away, please walk outside.
It drops the packet, somebody goes and collects it.
It turns around, it flies home, and then we get it ready for the next delivery.
Our service not only makes it possible, but also affordable for countries to deliver reliable access to essential medicines for all of their citizens.
What we are looking forward to see here is saving lives.
This isn't a small step forward. This is a transformational change to how we provide medical care to people across the world.
So if you think about what they're trying to solve for, reliable access to medicals and to health will be something that will fundamentally change people's lives, but they're actually not using complex technology to do so. If you think about the use of a drone, I've got a 6-year-old son and he can fly a drone, and basic SMS technology, which anybody in this room can probably program, the technology itself is not that complex. But what they're able to do is that they're able to take simple technology and fundamentally change people's lives in the way they apply that technology. The reason why that's important is that we are in a continent that requires us to solve for our community and our broader environments in the way we build our businesses. This notion that we have to lift as we rise is important not only to us, but it's important to the future of the continent. And so that brings us to this idea around the API humanity. For those of you that are not technology geeks, an API is a very technical term. It's called an application programming interface, right? And all it is, it's a set of codes that can speak to each other to create new things. And the way I like to describe this is about the ability to think about new problems and develop new value. When I bought my new cell phone, I effectively took out my iPhone and I put it on the desk. I took my new iPhone and my old iPhone and put them next to each other. When I turned my old iPhone on and I turned my new iPhone asked my old iPhone if there's an iPhone around. And my old iPhone then matched with my new iPhone. And just like that, they cloned one another, and I had my new iPhone with all the information that was on my old iPhone. Now, why is that possible? It's because someone sat and thought about the irritation it would take that I was going to have to take my phone. You know, you've all bought new phones and had to transfer data or download it from the cloud or something along those lines. And so someone realized that you can just develop an API integration so that the two phones can speak to each other, and in so doing, you create new value. Now, if you think about yourself as an entrepreneur, as a conduit for information, right? If you think about yourself as that cell phone that effectively can connect to new things, new ideas, new people, new technologies, and in so doing, you can ultimately create new value. Businesses that are surviving these days are doing this and they take it very seriously. The best example is Uber. Uber is the collection of about 37 to 39 different APIs, all speaking to each other to bring you the Uber experience. It's not a single API, it's not a single gateway. It's multiple APIs and multiple gateways. The reason why that's important is that in this day and age, you will not be able to solve for everything. And so when I think about the future, and we think about the year 2029, which is literally around the corner, and according to the statistics in the year 2029, 39% of the world are going to be Africans, we have to wonder what the future is going to be like. I spend a lot of time thinking about the future because I've got two kids. I've got a son and I've got a daughter. My son is 6 at the moment and my daughter's 3. So in 2029, they're going to be 16 and 13, which is a bit freaky, but I'm starting to deal with it slowly in my own way, and so I'll get over myself. But in 2029, they're going to be young adults that are going to be solving problems in a very different world. And in the year 2029, they're likely to have friends that are vastly different to the friends we have today. My daughter and my son are likely to have a friend called Kizzy, who's from Uganda and now lives in Sierra Leone. Or a friend called Adeshanka, who was actually born in Nairobi and currently lives in Nigeria somewhere. Or a friend called Imani, who's an atheist from Egypt, and she was born in Australia and currently resides in Kigali. Or maybe they even have a friend called Tana, and Tana was born in Zimbabwe, currently lives in Parkhurst, right? These are likely to be the friends that my children are likely to have in 2029. And because they've got long names, I'll call them the Fantastic Four, just to make things go a little bit quicker, right? So my friends, my kids have got these friends, the Fantastic Four, it's the year 2029, and we give them a very simple assignment. We say to them, why don't you guys sit around the table and design a business for the 5th industrial revolution. That's the assignment. Create an organization that's going to be developing financial services in the 5th industrial revolution. Now, how do we think the Fantastic Four and my kids are going to go about solving this problem? Well, I'll tell you. It's quite simple, actually. We have to think about things from first principles. In 2029, first and foremost, let's agree and understand the way they're going to find each other and what's going to be valuable for them. In 2029, it's going to be different to how it is now, because now, all of you that apply for jobs at corporates will be given things they call a Myers-Briggs test, which asks you a bunch of questions and tries to determine how competent you are to do the job. In 2029, competency is not going to matter. In fact, the Fantastic Four and my kids are going to look for people who they can cooperate with. So your ability to cooperate with people is going to be more important than your ability to be competent. So the fact that you're a Harvard graduate and that you've got a double cum laude from WITS will not matter in 2029. What will matter is, can you solve problems with people that are fundamentally different from you? In 2029, where do we think that they'll be living? Now, part of my research has taken me down an interesting road because I looked at some of the stats relating to social security and housing on our continent. And did you know that there's 17.3 million square kilometers of city on our planet, but we are still not able to house everybody, right? 17.3 million square kilometers, right? If you go to the UAE or Dubai, you'll see that they're building sky rises that are going into the sky. And I've got a theory that says, what happens if we do the opposite and we go underground? The technology that we need to implement to be able to go underground is actually not that complex. And in fact, when I started doing this research and I showed it to a few people, they looked at me the same way some of you are looking at me right now. But then I took them for a little trip down to Mpumalanga and I took them into an environment called the Kango Caves and I showed them around. And in Mpumalanga at the Kango Caves, 200 years ago, cavemen had burrowed holes into the mountains and they were living there and living very well. The interesting thing about the Kango Caves is that there's two conditions for human beings to inhabit an underground environment. Number one, you can get oxygen, and number two, you can get sunlight to photosynthesize plants. Now, at the Kango Caves, you'll see that they've burrowed underneath the ground, and they've been able to run oxygen through these tunnels. The second thing is that the Lowline, which is a place in the UK, have figured out how to turn sunlight into liquid form that can photosynthesize plants underground. Now, I put it to you, if you think about one of the main challenges we face on Africa, it's being able to put shelter over everybody's roofs. over everybody's heads, sorry. And that is 90% of the cost of a building like this. It's brick and mortar. So imagine you could reduce that cost to about 30 to 40% of the original cost by burrowing underground. Sounds a bit weird, but could be very possible. So as I stretch your imaginations, think about what it takes to be able to create a solution like that. Not being able to do it on your own, but figuring out the right APIs to be able to integrate to make it happen. If we look at 2029 again, what do we think that our Fantastic Four will be eating? Well, I put it to you, they're going to be eating plant-based, sugar and salt-free, genetically modified, and DNA-aligned foods that are going to be pretty much tailored to themselves. The reason for that is that our Fantastic Four would have grown up their entire lives wearing these things, wearable technology that a lot of you probably have. So I know that when I started this presentation, my heartbeat was 89 beats per minute, and I can monitor that as I go through the presentation. And so what's going to happen is the major opportunity for small businesses and value creators is how do you take this data and convert it into an API that effectively allows you to order food before you know that you're hungry. And in fact, when you order the food, it tells you exactly what nutrients and supplements you're missing so that you order the right kind of food, right? The year 2029 is going to mean Checkers, ShopRite, and Woolworths are going to have to be thinking about this reality and finding businesses to be able to integrate into to be able to meet the challenge. In the year 2029, the Fantastic Four are also going to be communicating in a very different way. My business partner and the CTO for our engineering company recently went to Harvard, and he had a talk with some really, really bright people. And while he was there, he found that they were doing some experiments with some wearable technology. In fact, that device you can go to sleep with today, and you can wake up in the morning and you can pick up your dreams on a USB, right? That's how advanced the technology is. And it sounds a little bit weird and it sounds a little bit far-fetched, but if you think about what you could solve with that, those of you that are married, is anybody married here or got a partner, right? I've got a wife, bless her soul, and every day I come home from work, my wife always asks me the same question, and I'm really tired when I come home from work, and she says to me, honey, how was your day? And I wish I could just give her a USB and say, you can have a good time with how my day was, right? Wouldn't that be awesome? Think about other things you could do with this technology. You know that world wars have been started because of miscommunication. You know, people have gotten divorced because of miscommunication. People have been fired because of miscommunication. Think about wearable technology that allows you to understand exactly what someone means and exactly what someone is saying when they're communicating to you as an individual. In the year 2029, we also know that the world of work is going to be changed completely. I've got a very, very clear view of how this is going to happen. Holoport technology is going to be advanced, and we're going to be working with very young children. People the age of 17, 15, 14 are going to start creating solutions that are going to be phenomenal, but also very much ahead of their time. Why? Because they've got proximity to the technology and they've got proximity to the problems. It creates a world of excitement, but it also becomes a challenge if you're starting to manage people that are in Generation Alpha, as they call them. Very different group of people, but extremely valuable in the world that we're trying to solve for going forward. In the year 2029, this notion that we have around lean and agile, which all these fancy terms big companies use, will simply be just the way people work. Now, all of you that have played computer games, I'm sure we've got some Fortnite players, but you know, my era is the era of Mario Brothers, so must excuse me for my example. But when you play Mario Brothers, it's a simple process, right? You jump into a world, bloop, 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 and you run towards the first obstacle. As you get to the first obstacle, you have to jump over it. So you jump over it and you miss, and you jump on it, and the pipe swallows you, bloop, 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 bloop. That, and then it resets the game and you start again. And then you run towards the first obstacle, and now you know, when I jumped on it, it swallowed me, I need to jump over it, and then you jump over it. And then you head towards the second obstacle, and you repeat that. So all it is a process of systemized failures. Now, startups and value creators who are younger and understand this will simply do this as a way they operate. It won't be a fancy term. But it will also allow them to move quickly and to integrate into people that allow them to fail forward. Now, this kind of thinking is all aligned to this new world, which is about APIs. It's about thinking about yourself as a conduit for information and experiences to be able to design and create new value. Now, businesses like Facebook, IBM Global, Amazon Web Services, all of them are solving for this future. I was very fortunate. I spent 3 years launching Facebook Africa here in Johannesburg and across the continent. And I spent some time with a gentleman called Jan LeCun, who's the director of artificial intelligence. And he came into the business and he started challenging the engineers to think about two things. The first is that the brilliance of engineering and when it serves humanity, what can be unlocked. And the second thing is about technology inclusion in the fourth industrial revolution. And so when he walked into the building, he challenged his engineers to think about what must Facebook be like for someone who can't see. And this is what came out of it.
Our goal is to build intelligent machines to help people in their daily lives. What makes us intelligent is our ability to learn. And this is what we're trying to reproduce in machines. To some extent, we get inspiration from biology. What we can do with current technology is build networks of simulated neurons on the order of magnitude of the brain of a mouse, let's say. So the way we train our machine, we show a bunch of images of, say, breeds of dogs, and for each image we tell it what it is.
We want the machine to be able to learn to perform the tasks. The more we show them examples, the better they get.
And what's very interesting is that after a while it can do this with a new dog it's never seen before. It's able to exhibit superhuman performance on a particular task. So how can we help people's life with this?
Friends 937. Newsfeed. Lindsay Russell updated her cover photo yesterday at 10:29 p.m. This image may contain outdoor, cloud, foliage, flattened, tree. This image may contain 6 people, child, close up, mic. One or more people, jewelry, smiling. 19 likes, 3 comments like.
Now I can see the picture in my head. Like, yeah, you shouldn't have been that close up. Like, now I can say it.
Oh my god, I love it. You have no idea. This is amazing.
That whole saying of pictures being worth 1,000 words, I think it's true, but unless you have somebody to describe it to you, even having like 3 words just helps flesh out all the details that I can't see.
I feel like I can fit in, that there's more I can do.
I can just call my mom like, yay, I seen your picture. And she'll be like, what? She was like, how you see it? Because my phone read it to me. It's new. And I'm going to mess with my mother head so much.
In the future, we'll be able to give a complete description of the image.
The 2 people happy? Are they sad? Are they holding hands with one another? It's this kind of comment that a human would make.
We have systems in the lab that are able to do this, and they will be deployed over the next few years. Artificial intelligence systems are going to be an extension of our brains, the same way cars are an extension of our legs. They're not going to replace us, they're going to amplify everything we do, augmenting your memory, giving you instant knowledge, and they're going to allow us to concentrate on doing things that are properly human.
One of the key challenges we're going to face as a continent is this notion around inclusion. Organizations like Yoko have been trying to figure out how do we bring people that were previously excluded into the financial system. And solving for that means that you have to think about things in a more innovative way. Just the same as that team from Facebook were thinking about, what must Facebook be like for someone who can't see? And it must be quite a terrible experience. And so using API thinking, you're able to integrate a solution that allows you to be able to meet the person exactly where they are. And this thinking is going to be what really is going to drive value for us in the next century. This thinking is going to be what allows us to be able to close a gap. We've got a 200-year gap since 1884 when they started colonizing Africa to now, and we've got the next 5 to 10 years to be able to close that gap. Because if we don't close that gap in the next 5 to 10 years, it's going to be the next wave of colonization, unfortunately. So the way we need to think about our businesses is really applying very different principles to how we create value. And as value designers and as creative people that are working in these spaces, we can think about APIs as a way that we can create new value and target new problems. Now, often it means that we have to challenge the way we've done things in the past. Often it means we have to think differently about how we've been able to approach problems. And primarily, if we think about what it means that illiteracy forms in a very different way in the 21st century. A lot of people think about it as learning to read and write. But according to Arvind Toffler, who's my favorite futurist, he speaks about literacy in the 21st century being about the ability or the inability to learn and unlearn or relearn stuff. And for us to really capture the value of the API humanity, and for us to be able to take our continent from here to the next level, we're going to have to think about the businesses that we create in this very way. And I think through that, and through a consistent application of value creation, I believe that all of you are going to be extremely successful entrepreneurs, but we're also going to be able to change our continent for good. Thank you very much for your time and enjoy the rest of the day.